To the Vancouver City Council meeting for Tuesday, April the 11th, 2023. We have quorum. I can wait. Okay. Uh-oh, someone got in trouble there. Oh, someone's still in trouble there. All right. Okay, so this council meeting is being convened by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the procedure bylaw, the City of Vancouver electronic meetings. As such, council members and the public may participate in person or by electronic means. If a council member attending by electronic means loses connection during the voting process, team members are available to get you back online quickly while the voting process is suspended. The team member's contact information has been circulated to you. Video of council members speaking, presentations, and vote results will be projected on the live stream when available. Council members are reminded that in accordance with section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. In case of an emergency where you need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the 4 exits in this chamber, so over there and over there. Please use the stairs, do not use the elevator. I would like to also highlight that there's a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside of the council chamber, just down there. So we would like to also acknowledge that we're hosting today's council meeting on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and we thank them for their generosity and their hospitality and the love and the care that they share. They show the land that we live on. I'd also like to recognize the immense contributions of our team members at the City of Vancouver who work hard, incredibly hard, every single day. And that was shown sort of last week and over the weekend with the incredible work that they've done in a very compassionate and empathetic way, helping people in the encampment find other housing solutions and making the neighborhood safer for everyone. So with that, Clerk, may we please have the roll call?
Mayor Simmons in the chair, Councillor Carr. Councillor Kubiak. Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly. Not in the chamber. Councillor Boyle is on a leave of absence for personal reasons. Councillor Fry. Councillor Montague is on a leave of absence for personal reasons. Councillor Klassen. Present. Councillor Meisner. And Councillor Zhou.
Present.
You have quorum, Mayor Sim.
Great, thank you very much. So any comments on agenda items can be sent to council using the web form on the city's website. The link to that form will be tweeted out on @VanCityClerk. I also want to note the City of Vancouver's longstanding commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including the utmost respect for all genders. I remind council that when addressing speakers and the city's team members, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. Today we have 3 administrative items: in-camera motion, adoption of minutes and matters adopted on consent, 4 reports and 5 referral reports, 9 bylaws, 5 council member motions, notice of council member motions, new business, and inquiries and other matters. The plan for today, break at noon for lunch, followed by the in-camera meeting. Return at 3 p.m., continue to deal with the remainder of the agenda if needed, break at 5 p.m. for dinner, and return at 6 p.m. to complete the agenda if required. Council is required to meet in camera later this week. The reasons and authority under the Vancouver Charter are listed in the agenda. Would someone like to move a motion to go in camera this week? Great. Councillor Klassen, seconded by Councillor Carr. All those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. So minutes 1 are from the nomination subcommittee of November the 28th, 2022. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Great, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Zhou. Great. Sorry, no, it was Moved by Councillor Dominato. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 2 are from the nomination subcommittee of February the 6th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No. Would someone move? Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor anyone? Meisner, thank you very much. Sorry, I should have asked it in the form of a question. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 3 are from the Special Council 2023 draft operating budget of February the 28th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Great, thank you, Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Claassen. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 4 from the Special Council Business License Hearing of March the 1st, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No? Would someone like to move? Great, Councillor Joe, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Thank you very much. All those opposed, or sorry, in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 5 are from the Auditor General Committee of March the 2nd, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Great, would someone like to move? Great, thank you, Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Joe. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 6 are from the Special Council in-camera meeting of March the 6th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Councillor Claassen, thank you, seconded by Councillor Meisner. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 7 are from the Nomination Subcommittee of March the 10th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Great. Would someone like to move adoption? Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Kirby-Young. Thank you. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 8 are from the Council of March the 28th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Great, Councillor Joe, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Thank you. All those in favor say yay. Great. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 9 are from the council meeting following the Standing Committee on Policy and Strategic Priorities meeting of March the 29th and March the 30th of 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move adoption? Councillor Meisner, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Joe. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. Minutes 10 are from the Nomination Subcommittee of March the 31st, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Great. Would someone like to move adoption? Councillor Meisner, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Dominato. Thank you. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, matters adopted on consent. Council will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have reports 1 through 4 and refer reports 1 through 5 on the consent agenda for council's consideration. Council may adopt the recommendations for reports 1 through 4 and refer reports 1 through 5 on consent. Does any member wish to hold any of the items for debate or questions to team members? And we have Councillor Carr, yes. Okay, report 1. And that's the recalibration of CAC targets. Thank you very much. Anyone else? No, not seeing any. Does any member wish to declare a conflict of interest on any of the consent items? No? Okay, we have reports numbers 2. No, we're good. Okay. We have reports 2, 3, and 4 and referral reports 1 through 5. So I'm just going to read them out. Report number 2, sites for 2023 alcohol consumption in public plazas program. Report number 3, Auditor General Committee March 2nd, 2023 recommendations transmittal report. Report number 4, funding application for the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for Emergency Operations Centers, EOCs, and training. And then referral report number 1, recalibration of density bonus contributions. Referral report number 2, city initiated zoning changes for townhomes and row houses in the Canby corridor. Referral report number 3, CD-1 rezoning 1040 to 1080 Barclay Street. Referral report number 4, CD-1 rezoning 855 to 865 West 10th Avenue. And referral report number 5, CD-1 rezoning 208 East 54th, 7018 to 7078 Main Street, and 211 East 55th Avenue. Would someone like to move adoption of the recommendations before? Great. Thank you, Councillor Carr. Seconded by Councillor Klassen. All those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. So the following have been approved on consent. So report number 2, sites for 2023 alcohol consumption in public plazas program. Report number 3, Auditor General Committee to March the 2nd, 2023 recommendations transmittal report. Report number 4, funding application to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for Emergency Operations Centers, EOCs, and training. Referral report number 1, recalibration of density bonus contributions. Number 2, city initiated zoning changes for townhomes and row houses in the Canby corridor. Number 3, CD-1 rezoning 1040 to 1080 Barclay Street. Report 4, CD-1 rezoning 855 to 865 West 10th Avenue. Report number 5, CD-1 rezoning 208 East 54th Avenue and 7018 to 7078 Main Street and 211 East 55th Avenue. All right. What's going on here? Okay. So we have one report held for debate, questions, team members, or a separate vote, and that would be report number 1, recalibration of community amenity contribution targets. And so that was held by Councillor Carr. And does any team member wish to declare a conflict of interest on this item? No? Okay, Councillor Carr, you held this report. You have 5 minutes to ask questions to team members. Are you there?
I am here. Thank you. Yes, I just have a couple of questions. My first question is surrounding the CAC rate. In calculating the CAC rate that will support financial viability of a project, I am wondering what the city considers a acceptable of ROI. Return on investment for developers in order to enable financial viability.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Carr. We have Blair Erb from Coriolis, who is the third-party consultant hired to support this work, who will answer that question.
Thank you.
Morning, Councillor Carr. Blair Erb from Coriolis. That was convenient. The analysis assumes that the developer requires a minimum profit margin of 15% of total project costs. So that's the measure.
That's great. I remember asking this question a number of years ago when it was 20%. So I'm happy. That's good. That's all I need to know about that. My second question has to do with the low density housing. So the 6 units or 6 plexes per lot. I just happened to read a news story about Portland, Oregon, in which they've just passed what was touted in the article as the most progressive approach to the same thing, multiple units per single family lot residential zoning. And what they've required is in up to 6 units per lot, residential lot, 3 of them have to be actually low income focused. Have staff or did staff consider this requirement at the time that we looked at it and now in this report?
Chris Clibben, Planning Department. Thanks for the question. That was not the scope of this work, but I am familiar with some of the work being done that we brought to council later this year on the multiplex work, which will allow up to 6 units per single-family lot or RS zoned lot, depending on the size of the lot. And there is consideration of affordable home ownership integrated into those projects.
Yeah, I mean, this is recalibrating really community amenities. That's why I brought it up. It's looking at the changes we can make to simplify zoning, but making sure that there are the delivery of community amenities to the public. Good. Okay, so there is consideration of affordability that's not detailed in this report. Is that fine that it's not detailed in this report, that consideration of, in essence, community amenity contribution in terms of affordability in those multi subdivisions of a lot?
That's correct, Councillor. The future work that will be coming forward on the multiplex zoning we are looking at integrating a density bonus contribution or an affordable home ownership component into those projects. So there is a growth cost capture or land value capture component to that work when it comes forward.
Okay, that's good to know. I look forward to that coming forward. That's it for my questions, Mayor.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I see no one else on the queue. I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Two must be voted on and enacted before we can vote on bylaw number 3. I recommend that we vote on bylaws 1, 2, and 4 through 9 first, then go back to vote on bylaw number 3. We will come back to this in a minute. Council members who were not present for the meetings related to public hearing enactment bylaws must confirm that they've reviewed the proceedings of the meetings if they wish to vote on the enactment. Bylaw number 1 is from a public hearing on September the 12th, 2019. Councillor Bly was absent for this item at the public hearing. Councillors Klassen, Meisner, Joe, and myself were not on council at the time of the public hearing and will need to review the proceedings to be eligible to vote. Councillor Bly, have you reviewed the proceedings and would you be voting on the enactment? Okay. Councillor Klassen? Councillor Meisner? Councillor Joe? Great. And I have not, so I will not. Would someone like to move the motion to adopt bylaws 1, 2, and 4 through 9? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Fry. Sorry. Oh, okay, you're on the queue. Oh, no, it's all good. Okay, great. This is great. Okay, so going back there, would someone like to move a motion to adopt the bylaws 1, 2, and 4 through 9? Great. Councillor Kirby-Young, thank you. Is there a seconder? Great. Councillor Meisner, thank you. Councillor, is there any discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to move the motion to adopt bylaw number 3? Great, Councillor Dominato, is there a seconder? Councillor Joe, thank you. Council, is there any discussion? Oh. All right. Sorry? Okay, so then that's my bad. Can we rewind that back? So what do we need to do to rewind? Okay. Okay. So we had some gremlins there. What we need to do to go through Councillor Fry's thing is to rescind the vote. Okay, thank you. So everyone, my apologies. Can we please rescind the vote on the motion to adopt bylaws 1, 2, and 4 through 9? And we need to do that unanimously. Oh, sorry. Can we get a motion first? Great. Councillor Carr, seconded. All those in favor of rescinding the vote that we just did, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Great. Apologize for that. Councillor Fry.
Oh, so I submitted an amendment to the clerk, and this is based on some correspondence we received from retailers around privacy concerns with storing ID identification numbers with regard to the bear spray regulation. In subsequent correspondence with Sarah Hicks from licensing and the city manager, and presumably I think the VPD, they've suggested an amendment that would not stop this regulatory bylaw, but rather just eliminate the identification number and identification provided as a requirement for the retailers to store that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions through you to staff, just with respect to the amendment. Just if staff could clarify, the context of the amendment is to address concerns over personal information and identifiable personal information. In reading this, the retailers would still be collecting, I believe, a address, and that would be potentially a home address, which would be personal information under FOIPA. So I'm just curious if staff could comment on that and whether that would need to be struck as well.
Yeah, thanks for the question through the chair. So yeah, our understanding is that the primary concern is around the identification numbers. You're absolutely correct, Councillor, that personal information would include an address. Again, that would be, if council is interested to make further changes or more substantive changes, we would recommend referring this back to staff, because at some point it does start to impact the effectiveness of the bylaw. So I think as the amendment is framed, the removal of the requirement to record identification numbers is something that we don't believe would have a significant impact on the bylaw. To go beyond that would be problematic. So that's the advice from staff.
Okay, thank you. I guess the follow-up question to that is, well, I don't have any objection to the amendment. My concern is the delineation of personal information here under FOIPA, and the fact that a person's home address is also personal information. Business address is not, but home address is, personal phone numbers, and so on. So I think there's a legal consideration that needs to be addressed here, is we're identifying one piece as personal information and the other is not, and yet they are both personal information. So, and I don't know if we have any example of other bylaws where we've collected this information and it's been appropriate. I guess I'm looking for further legal comment on that. And whether it needs to be referred back then in this case.
That's certainly council's, I mean, there was nothing wrong from a legal perspective with the bylaw as it was originally drafted. This is retailers indicating to us that they don't want to collect that information because it creates a privacy obligation for them. And they're worried about managing that obligation on their end. It's not a question of the city requiring it. We can certainly do that.
Do those retailers have the same privacy obligation with respect to home addresses as they do with
They're
personal?
not subject to, they're subject to a different act. They certainly have obligations with respect to protecting the privacy of their customers, although they do collect a whole ton of information about customers. We wouldn't be able to speak on, of course, what measures they have in place to manage those obligations, but they do have them. I think the identification of ID numbers creates a different level of risk than an address. Because people can, if they were able to get a hold of that, you can do a lot more with an ID number than you can with an address in terms of identity fraud and things like that. So that's our understanding of the concern here, is that the privacy implications around ID numbers are quite different than just names and addresses.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Great,
That's all my
thank you very
questions.
much. Councillor Kirby-Young?
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to ask a point of information as well of the city manager, if I can, through you. And that is, do we know, because I know this amendment is coming quite late and bylaws are typically crafted by legal just to avoid kind of unintended consequences. So do we know what the other municipalities are doing? If Vancouver is to strike identification number, but still collect addresses, would that be consistent with other municipalities?
Through the chair, my understanding is that this would reflect the practice of some other municipalities that have bylaws, Chilliwack, and there was, I think it's Coquitlam or Port Coquitlam. My understanding is Surrey also has a bylaw that does require recording the ID numbers. So that was where, it's not that this is unprecedented, but I think what we're hearing from, what council's heard from retailers is that that particular addition is one that they don't believe is necessary. And we would agree. We don't see that it's absolutely necessary to achieve the objectives of the bylaw.
Okay, and how is keeping the address necessary or beneficial then, for example?
Again, I think it's a matter of understanding for the individuals who is actually purchasing these. Again, this is a substance that's being used inappropriately and having effects from a public safety standpoint. So that's the purpose of that. Again, it is to create some sense of obligation, responsibility on the folks who are buying this, that it's being used properly.
Okay, and then I guess sort of one final question is, do you feel comfortable that there aren't kind of any unintended consequences, or this puts us out of sync with other municipalities, or would staff feel better if they had more time to look at it?
No, staff have reviewed this amendment and we're okay with it. I think, again, we believe this, our chief license inspector as well as the VPD believe that the intent of the bylaw can still be affected with this particular change. If council is looking to go further than that, then we would suggest it be referred for more information. There does become a point at which it's not in effect. Again, the purpose of this bylaw is to deter people from purchasing it who are not planning to use it for its intended purpose. At some point, it loses that effectiveness. So that would be going beyond this. We would recommend that staff have an opportunity to report back to council on whether the bylaw is even still worth passing if it's watered down further.
Okay, thanks. Hearing that, I'm happy to support the amendment today. I probably wouldn't want to see much more watering down of it, but like other bylaws that we have had, we do have the ability to amend them in future if we find that something is not reaching the intended purpose of deterring that desired behavior and making sure that they're purchased by people that need them for genuine uses. So I'm happy to support it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bly?
Thanks very much. So my questions have been asked and answered. So I'm happy to support, but I just have one quick follow-up question, and that's to the city manager through you, Chair, is around process of engagement when it comes to formulating bylaws such as these that have a sort of a material impact, let's say, to a broad range of retailers. And just if we could get a sense of what that engagement process looks like, from engaging retailers to also engaging representative associations.
So certainly, yes. Thanks through the chair for the question. So the staff do undertake consultation to understand the impact of the bylaw. In this case, there was consultation with retailers who sell bear spray. I don't actually have the list of which retailers were involved in that, as well as with the BC Conservation Service. And I think there were other stakeholders that who are not retailers, really to understand, again, the full implications of that. Certainly in this case, we do recognize that there was subsequent follow-up from industry associations with this question. So that's certainly a matter we'll take back and look at for future, whether there's any adjustments we need to make to our process around engagement with business on issues like this.
Yeah, thanks very much. That's very helpful, and I certainly support our staff doing that outreach. and noting we are making decisions here that do impact businesses more globally beyond bear spray, but other sort of decisions made here that do have considerable material impact to businesses. So leveraging organizations like the Retail Council of Canada and others that have broad membership representation may be a really impactful way for us to ensure that we're checking all of those boxes when it comes to consultation. But all that to say, I appreciate the amendment and making sure that we can strike the right balance with this bylaw. So happy to support.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, seeing other comments, I know, I got that one. Can we please get a seconder for the amendment? And so I think we've had all of our discussion. So if we can vote on the amendment to bylaw number 2, all those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Now, I'd like to go back to, can I do this all as part of one, clerk? 1, 2, and 4 through 9, or do you have to do 2 just separately, so I can't bunch it? Okay, great. Okay, so I need can we please get a seconder for bylaw number 2? Great, thank you, Councillor Joe. Council, is there any discussion on bylaw 2 as amended? No, great. So we'll vote on it now. All those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. Now we will go to bylaws 1 and 4 through 9. Can we have a motion to adopt those bylaws? Great. Thank you, Councillor Carr. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Meisner. Thank you. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Now we will vote on number 3. Would someone like to move a motion to adopt bylaw number 3? Great, thank you, Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Dominato. Council, is there any discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. A list of the approved bylaws can be found on the city's website. We have, now we have 4 council member motions on the agenda today. B1 is requests for leave of absence as follows. Councillor Klassen for personal reasons on April the 11th, 2023 from 4 p.m. onwards. Is there a mover? Great, thank you, Councillor Meisner, seconded by Councillor Joe. All those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Motion number 2 is improving climate resilience and reducing emissions in existing multifamily buildings, and is to be moved by and introduced by Councillor Klassen. Councillor Klassen, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion.
And hi, Brian. So I'm very pleased to bring forward this motion. Vancouver has a long tradition of addressing climate change going back to the early 1990s, the groundbreaking Clouds of Change report. And we have to continue that. And we have done decades worth of work, and we now have an opportunity to address a gap currently that exists with some of our older building stock. Now, we saw the devastating impacts of the heat dome in the summer of 2021. We knew that it resulted in fatalities, and much of that had to do with buildings that were ill-suited and not prepared for the weather extremes, the extreme heat that was happening. So we have I'm putting forward a motion here that would allow us to address that gap currently, and it is a motion to create an incentive-based program that would be funded through existing budgets that specifically targets older and multifamily buildings. And it could include a range of buildings, condominiums, rental apartments, care homes, and helping and otherwise assisting owners to reduce their carbon emissions and through energy retrofits. such as installing high efficiency electric heat pumps and improving cooling of indoor air quality of these buildings. The thing that makes this, I think, a little bit more exciting is that we could develop and incorporate a design challenge. So this would be really an appeal to people who are owning and operating some of these older buildings to work and bring forward ideas that would explore innovative retrofit solutions.
Councillor Klassen, I apologize. I have to
I'm
cut you
at
off.
the end
You're
here,
at
so
time.
thank you very much.
Awesome. But you do have questions. Councillor Carr?
Thank you. There is a great deal of overlap between this motion and some of the work that's going on in the city, especially fronted by the Metro Vancouver Zero Emissions Innovation Centre. Have you contacted them to see in which ways your the outcomes of your motion would overlap with or synchronize and complement the work of Zeke?
Would like to try and reach out to them, find out, see what kind of work they are doing. I think that the motion as it is presented right now gives a real opportunity for partnerships, other levels of government, agencies such as BC Hydro and Fortis, and working with Zeke, I think would really help to
Great.
enhance.
I have a
and
second
strengthen
question.
it.
Thank you.
bet.
That is around the affordability. You didn't identify the priorities of types of buildings that we would look at retrofitting for the most vulnerable, especially low-income people. Is that an intent of yours or no?
It was, I think we wanted to.
That's the 1 minute time.
Okay, thanks.
But great. Now, the great thing is we do have speakers, so there will be lots of time to talk about this tomorrow. So thank you very much. Now, we have received requests to speak, like I just mentioned. So if council would like to hear the speakers, we can refer the motion to tomorrow's Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting on Wednesday, April the 12th, 2023, which starts at 9:30 a.m. Or council can make a decision on this item today. Would someone like to move referral to hear?
Move referral.
Referral? Okay. Move to referral by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Dominato. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion is referred to tomorrow's Standing Committee meeting. Motion number 3 is updating guidelines to allow for wine on shelf sales in Vancouver grocery stores, and is to be moved and introduced by Councillor Klassen, or maybe Montague. We're not too sure yet. Kidding. It's Councillor Klassen. Councillor Klassen, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion.
Thanks very much, Mayor. So in 2015, some regulatory changes that allowed municipalities to regulate and allow wine to be sold on grocery store shelves. It came to this council in 2017 and it was turned down. I'm asking that we review that and see an opportunity to allow that to happen here in the city of Vancouver. I just returned from a brief trip to the United States where you can find wine products available on grocery store shelves there. The added convenience is obviously one thing that's good for consumers overall, but I think it also speaks to our enthusiasm for locally produced products. The licenses in question are for BC wine producers, BC VQA designated wines only. We've seen other municipalities around the province, such as Prince George, Langley, Kelowna, Penticton, City of North Vancouver, Surrey, and most recently the City of Coquitlam, that are all having stores that have the wine on shelf availability. And I know that Vancouverites would love to have this opportunity as well. It is a limited number of licenses that be available, but as the largest city and the city that attracts perhaps the most tourists, it would be really great if we could have wine on shelf available here so we can support these fantastic locally grown products. So I'd like to put this council motion forward, please.
Thank you. Seeing no questions here, so we, sorry. You said, sorry, Councillor Dominato, was that you? Okay, great. So you second. Okay, now we've received requests to speak to this motion. If council would like to hear the speakers, we can refer the motion to tomorrow's Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting on Wednesday, April the 12th, 2023, which starts at 9:30 a.m. or council can make a decision on this item today. Would someone like to move referral to hear from speakers tomorrow? Councillor Joe, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Dominato. Great. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion is referred to tomorrow's Standing Committee meeting. Motion B4 is amping up the arts event license policy to support arts and culture in Vancouver, and is to be introduced by Councillor Kirby-Young and seconded by Councillor Meisner. Councillor Kirby-Young, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm incredibly excited to bring this motion forward with Councillor Meisner. It is called Amping Up the Arts Events License Policy for a reason, because it's also about amping up fun in the city. And this is part of the work to contribute to a vibrant and more vital city and removing some of the barriers towards doing that. This is a really easy thing to do. About a decade ago in 2013, these events were not permitted. There was a 2-year pilot program of modest scale to allow events to happen, and think of having an art show in a retail store when it's closed, or a small music performance in an art gallery, and sort of the joint excitement of that. And there is an opportunity to make it easier. There was 2 years of extensive consultation that was done, and then this policy was put in place in 2015 formally, and it only allows up to 3 events per month. And so this motion asks to look at doubling or increasing, not prescribing how many, asking staff to go back and come back with some recommendations, but the amount of events per month. A lot has changed in a decade. We've had a pandemic. People are yearning to get out. We have had a loss of arts and culture space in the city, which has made this all the more important. And this is really about a lot of events that don't necessarily are a fit for traditional venues. And so you think about Vancouver Pride could take advantage of this, Vancouver Mural Festival, things like Afro Queer, some DJ groups. A number of councillors and I attended something called the Hundreds Amigos art exhibit, which was in a lobby of an office building after hours downtown that would not normally be an event space. And it was a fantastic event where people gathered in the lobby and on the plaza. And what was unique about that is that you had 100 local emerging artists that were displaying their visual art on the walls. And that art remained up for weeks after the event. So people coming and going had a chance to see it that wouldn't necessarily. And so it provided exposure for artists, but it also brings a lot of diverse communities together, particularly the whether it's things like Afro-Queer with people of color, or the LGBT community. And these are fun events, and I just think that we need a little bit more of that in our city. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Councillor, are there any questions for Councillor Kirby-Young? Okay, well, seeing none, we've received a request to speak to this motion. If council would like to hear the speakers, we can refer the motion to tomorrow's Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting on Wednesday, April the 12th, 2023, which starts at 9:30 a.m. or council can make a decision on this item today. Would someone like to move referral to hear from? Great. Is there? Awesome. Thank you. So, Councillor Bly, and then seconded by Councillor Meisner. All those in favor say yay. Okay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries, and the motion is, referred to tomorrow's Standing Committee meeting. Now, I've brought forward a motion and would like to now relinquish the chair to Acting Mayor Bly so I can move and introduce the next motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Please go, I'll go ahead. Motion B5 is Mayor's Budget Task Force and is to be moved and introduced by Mayor Sim. Mayor Sim, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll keep this very brief. So the task force was an election promise that we put forth. To give you a little bit of context, this year's tax hike was necessary to address public safety concerns by having a fully funded VPD for the first time in 15 years and a fully funded fire department in 10 years. And for a refocus on core services like pothole repairs and waste collection services. And we do know, however, that this rate of increase is unsustainable, and that this time, excuse me, it gets me all choked up. Anyways, this rate of increase is unsustainable, and the task force is designed to dig deep into the city's finances Now, this isn't the first time something like this has been done. When Gordon Campbell became mayor, he launched a red tape task force with similar goals and outcomes. And other communities have done this as well, like Brad West and Port Coquitlam. Now, I do want to state that we have an incredible finance team led by Patrice Impey, and they do amazing work. And I'm very grateful to have them as part of our team. And this task force is explicitly designed to augment the work being done by Patrice and our team. And so this, when you look at this task force, they're going into it with an open set of eyes to be objective. It's going to be non-prescriptive, so we're going to let them sort of see what they see and report back to us. And so with that, it looks like we have some questions. Oh, sorry, I don't have the chair, so it's not my
Right.
call.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So Council, are there any questions from Mayor Sim? And I see there are questions from Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm interested, given especially the involvement, the focus on a lot of stuff to do with staff, improving service levels, processes, transparency. How do you intend this task force to be working collaboratively with staff as opposed to standing apart from staff?
Well, they're going to be obviously reaching out to our team members and working collaboratively. When we spoke with Patrice and our team, they actually embraced it. They're pretty excited about it. And like I said, they're a second set of eyes, and so they're actually there to augment the team and help the team out.
Hey, I only have 10 seconds, so go ahead. I'm fine.
Okay, great. So would someone like to second the motion? That's the seconder from Councillor Kirby-Young. So we've received requests to speak to this motion. If Council would like to hear the speakers, we can refer the motion to tomorrow's Standing Committee on City and Finance Services meeting on Wednesday, April 12th, which starts at 9:30, or Council can make a decision today. Would someone like to move referral to hear from speakers? Councillor Klassen, and the seconder? Lenny Jo, or Councillor Jo, sorry. All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. The motion is referred to tomorrow's Standing Committee meeting. I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bly. Are there any notices of council member motions for the upcoming council meetings? And we have we have a few. Councillor Meisner.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice of motion for the April 25th, 2023 meeting entitled Piloting a Pedestrian Scramble Crossing Trial in Vancouver. And that's co-submitted by myself and Councillor Jo.
Great, thank you very much. And I do want to add one more sentence here. A reminder to please state the title of the motion and the date of the council meeting on which you intend to move the motion, and be sure to send the title via email to the city clerk, which you did, Councillor Meisner, so thank you very much. Councillor Dominato.
Thanks, Mayor. Also, a notice of motion for April 25th, 2023, planting 100,000 new trees and updating Vancouver's urban forest strategy. This is co-submitted by myself and Councillor Bly.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, protecting people on Cornwall Avenue for April 25th, submitted by Councillor Boyle and myself.
Great, thank you very much. Great. So new business. We have one item of new business on the agenda today, which are requests for leaves of absence as follows. Councillor Kirby-Young for civic business on April the 12th, 2023 and April the 18th, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. April 13th, 2023 from 3 to 5 p.m. and April the 19th, 2023, April 20th, 2023, May 23rd, 2023 and May 24th, 2023 from 3 to 10 p.m. Would someone like to move the motion? Great, Councillor Joe, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Klassen, thank you. All those in favor say yay. Okay, great. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Council, are there any other items of new business? And great. And so I'm up. Do I have to relinquish the chair on this one? No? Okay, great. I'm requesting a leave of absence for civic purposes on April the 12th from 1 to 5 p.m. and April the 25th from 1 to 5 p.m. as well. So can we have a seconder, please? Councillor Kirby-Young, thank you. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Oh, I wasn't the mover? Okay. Did I move it? I think I moved it, right? So I moved it. Councillor Kirby-Young seconded it. All those in favor say yay. Yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, Council, are there any inquiries or other matters? And Councillor Dominato.
Actually, Mayor, sorry, this was new business as well, as I need to move an LOA. I can put it in writing right now.
Sorry about that. Yes, okay.
Can verbally articulate it. It's just, I do need LOA for civic business, May 23rd and 24th, because I see there's meeting reserves on those dates.
Great. Thank you very much. Did we catch that? Yeah. Councillor Fry?
Yeah, inquiry of the,
Oh, sorry. Can we please get a seconder?
oh, second.
Great. Councillor Fry, all those in favor say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you. And sorry, Councillor Card, was yours new business or inquiries? Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Fry, and I'll restart your timer here.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And inquiry of the city manager on some of the outcomes of the Hastings Street decampment. And I do want to preface my inquiries by just, thanks to our staff who have navigated a very tricky situation. And I know there's a lot of moving parts and this is really complicated and very difficult work for our staff and of course for the people who are on Hastings Street, both housed and unhoused. I have two inquiries, though, specific to some of the outcomes. Actually, I have more than two, but I just wanted to hone in on number one, the anticipated delivery of the quote-unquote work camp housing that is to be set up in two locations for 98 units of housing and how that can be factored into sort of that triage approach for folks who are experiencing homelessness. And the second question is around what I've observed, and I spent the last few days on Hastings Street on the ground seeing what's going on. There's still that need for places for people to go, especially in the rain. And I see that we see a lot of folks who are huddled under awnings still on Hastings Street, and it's clear that there's this absence of place to go. And I know that we had contemplated in the last term activating some of the vacant storefronts on Hastings Street for that kind of drop-in-y kind of indoor purpose. And I'm wondering where that work is at.
Thanks, Councillor. I will, with respect to the workforce modular housing, certainly that is one element. There's 89 units there that are coming on stream. I could follow up with you to get you the most accurate projection on when those are expected to be occupied. But my understanding is it's over the next couple of months. So certainly before we're fully into summer. And that's part of the 330 units of housing that the province has announced will be coming online, including renovated SRO units as well over the next 3 months. So that's one component of that. That is absolutely housing that we would be looking at to support folks who were previously camped out on Hastings Street, as well as the many other people that are in shelters and sheltering outdoors across the city as well. So it's not all intended simply for that group, but for folks who have indicated an interest in moving inside and are connected with our outreach team, yeah, that's the work that will be going on now to look at populating those units as well as the other units that are coming on stream over the next couple of months. So we're certainly looking forward to that. With respect to the need for additional places in the downtown east side for people to spend the day, that's absolutely, I would agree with you, a really significant gap. The city certainly provides services there, in terms of the social service centers that we operate. It's an issue that we have been also continuing to discuss with the province as well from a funding perspective. The city does not have operating funding currently in our budget to operate additional facilities like that in the downtown east side, though. So there's a space issue and then there's a kind of funding component. But it's certainly something that we're continuing to look at more broadly as additional facilities are developed in the downtown east side. We look at social amenities, that need for people, places for people to go during the day, certainly wintertime, but summertime as well, to cool off. It is a need that we're going to keep focusing on. But yeah, at this point, there's nothing immediate there other than to say it's an ongoing topic of discussion with our partners.
I'm sorry, and just to follow up on that, can we expect some kind of formal report back on available spaces and kind of anticipated potential operations so we could maybe advocate to the province?
Yeah, certainly happy to follow up with kind of what those, the status of that issue and more detail. For
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Carr?
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to follow up on the line of questioning that Councillor Fry started around the decampment on Hastings Street. There were a number of people who certainly contacted me, having seen the TV images of what looked like perfectly good tents being thrown into waste vehicles. And so, number one, what people are now saying they don't have tents, they don't have shelter. What is the city's role, and what can we do in order to be compassionate and supportive of these people?
Certainly. So the protocol that our staff follow in terms of working with folks who are unhoused and maybe living in a tent or another shelter is to give them the opportunity to pack that up. In the case of Hastings Street, people were provided with totes so that they could store those materials, and those materials are being stored for them should they choose. In many cases, in the case of tents or other belongings, staff would not be disposing of those without permission to do so. Otherwise, they would be impounded and held for 30 days, and people are provided with information on how they can collect their belongings. So they would be either structures that are kind of unsafe, but in the case of new tents, that would be either they're not occupied or the people have given permission to say, I'm not taking my tent, you can get rid of it. Otherwise, like I say, if they would be impounded. And we have a process for people to understand how they can collect those, for us to get them back to them. We hold those for at least 30 days.
You do. So, I mean, thinking of a case that was on the media about the individual who happened to be away at that time, actually helping out another person who was homeless in a nearby community. So wasn't there. So that tent would not have been trashed. It would have been held.
Yes, we would. If it was we would be impounding.
Impounding. Okay. Okay. How many people, there was different numbers. How many people really are left without having any shelter? There's been no room or not enough room, we know. So do we have a sense of the figures, like how many are now trying to find some other place?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Councillor. So on Wednesday and Thursday last week, when the staff were doing this work, there were 18 people who had requested to relocate to shelter. All of 18 of those were accommodated. And there were additional shelter spaces that were being held. So the people, and again, as you know, our outreach staff have been on Hastings Street for 8 months, offering people the option to move inside, and 250 people have. For the folks last week, there were sufficient shelter spaces for everybody who asked to move inside. I know there have been reports of other people who are saying they couldn't. I'm not sure about that. Again, our outreach staff were on the ground on Hastings Street last week, and we're able to provide access to spaces for everybody who had them. The other thing to note there is that there were, I know individuals were calling around to shelters. There were spaces that were being held specifically for folks on Hastings Street. So they wouldn't, if you were just to call one of those shelters and say, do you have spaces? The answer would have been no, but there were actually spaces that were free and were being held. So yeah, it's a very complex situation. In terms of on those days, our staff interacted with 56 people who were on Hastings Street, staying in structures on those 2 days. So of that 50, and again, this is a very fluid situation. So those numbers are kind of best estimates based on the work that staff were doing, the conversations they were having on those days. Of that 56, it was the 18 folks, all of whom were supported to transition to shelters.
The rest are somewhere.
Yes, either some of them had housing. As you know, Councillor, not everybody that was staying down in structures on Hastings Street were unhoused. And so again, it's a very, very difficult situation to identify every single person's circumstances. But we do know that there were other individuals who were unhoused who elected not to take those offers and have moved to other places or have come back and set up tents overnight on Hastings, and our staff are working with them every day to remove those structures.
Yeah, and my thanks also to staff for the incredibly difficult work. I do have another question, and it arose out of a previous meeting of council where there were some individuals who were not speaking at the time, but as has been the practice in the past, thought that they could sit in the gallery and observe a section of the meeting. Is there a new protocol around that? And if it is to not allow the public in, as we used to, can we revisit that decision?
So thanks for that question, Councillor, and happy to follow up with more information on this. It is an assessment that our team makes kind of on a meeting by meeting basis.
And I'm sorry, we're at time.
We'll follow up. Thank you.
Councillor Dominato?
Thanks, Mayor. I actually had a perfect segue, same question as Councillor Carr on public access to meetings. So I don't know if the city manager would like to complete that. And then I have one other question I'd like to get to. Thank you.
So yes, we don't have a policy at this stage that the gallery is closed in every case, but certainly where we have large groups of speakers, and in some cases where the topics are contentious, we are managing access to the chamber just to make sure that council can continue to conduct business and do that in a way that's everybody feels comfortable. Certainly if there are other questions that council has or concerns, happy to take those offline, but that is the balance I think we're looking to strike at this point.
Okay, thank you. Just so in the interest of time, I'll circle back on that. I just want to follow up on the subject of the decampment and again, echoing the thanks of my colleagues on that subject. And I'm wondering if the city manager could elaborate on the province's role going forward. The province indicated a number of months ago that they would be taking more of a leadership role and that would start with an encampment plan, particularly around East Hastings, but further that the province would play a role of coordinating services in the downtown east side as well as measuring outcomes and acknowledging that the city can't really address and tackle a number of the systemic issues on their own. So I'm just curious what that looks like from your perspective. Is there a task force that's been struck provincially across government table of the leadership teams and ministries, and what does that look like tangibly for us, and how are we working then with the province in that context?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. So the province has released a plan, and there's multiple dimensions to that plan that looks like encampments generally and the downtown east side more broadly. That involves, integrated service delivery teams on the provincial side, coordinating with our teams. So we'll be working with them to kind of implement those on the ground. Obviously, they're looking at the housing and supports as well. So as you know, the ministers referenced the 330 units that they're bringing on in Vancouver in the near term. But in the longer term, continuing to work with the city around creating new supportive housing, shelters, and so on. So the broader issue. So yeah, we're certainly thankful for their engagement on this. The challenges, as council well knows, are much bigger than the city of Vancouver's capacity to deal with alone. So we're now at the stage of kind of implementing what's coming out of that plan, and we can happy to report back on how that's going and progress that we're seeing.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And do I need to see the chair, or are we? No. Okay, great. Well, I'll keep this very brief, but on the topic of the removal of the encampment, I did want to highlight that I had the opportunity to sort of observe firsthand all the amazing work that all our team members do. Was able to be part of the debrief with the Vancouver Police Department and the level of professionalism and care that they displayed during that process and throughout the day. Had the opportunity to go down to the engineering muster before the actions of April 5th, and once again, just amazing professionalism and the empathy and the care that the team displayed. Saw firsthand through the operations during the day how much work was put into this and how empathetic everyone was. And I can tell you, and we don't see this in the media a lot because you only get it's my opinion that you only see the sensational sound bites, but have received dozens upon dozens of comments from advocates on mental health and addictions and organizations that help people who are experiencing homelessness, and the positive feedback that we received and the comments they had on how our people carried themselves. It was very humbling, and I just want to give a shout out to all of our team throughout the city. I know the city manager's office, engineering, arts, culture, and community services, VPD, the Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services, and I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of groups, but I know we're dealing with an incredibly challenging situation where there are no easy solutions, and the level of care that everyone displayed, not just on April 5th, but leading up the 8 months before, it's just, it was absolutely incredible. And I think I speak for the many across the city who say thank you for that. So that's all I have. Councillor Klassen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo some of those comments. I would like to just quickly acknowledge all the incredible work that's been done by staff. I think with sensitivity and with all the challenges associated with addressing the encampment on Hastings Street. Particular shout out to our QP 1004 workers who are out there, every day working to try and bring the encampment to an end, as well the support they've been getting from our Vancouver Police Department and the firefighters. I just wanted to, through you, Chair, to the City Manager, wanted to just ask a question. We've been getting a number of messages around some of the statements by the federal housing advocate, and as well as the human rights commissioner here in British Columbia. Both have been sort of speaking to the potential breach of people's rights with regards to the decampment process. I wanted to just make sure that, and we've heard from HU, the Hospital Employees Union, among other groups that have been critical of the process. I just wanted to know if there was any effort by your office to communicate with these different groups and individuals, just to kind of let them have perhaps a broader understanding of the overall plan. I think that they're perhaps, and I'm not saying that they're not having all the access to the information, but maybe just going a little bit on media reports, and perhaps need to have to hear from the city itself.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, there certainly have been a lot of comments made by the officials and organizations that you note, and others. In some cases we have. So in the case of the Human Rights Commissioner, Sandra Singh and Lon Leclerc did speak directly with the Commissioner and her team last week to share information. I believe that there had been statements issued. I'm not sure about the timing of that conversation relative to when the public statements were made. In the case of the Federal Housing Advocate, there was no outreach to the organization in advance of kind of putting out those public statements. So at this stage, we haven't followed up with all of those groups. I think we are continuing to issue a lot of information to the public, communication generally on what's kind of going on here, and the really challenging balance of rights that I think the city is having to address here. Certainly, I think we have acknowledged all the way through decisions of the court with respect to the rights of unhoused people. And the circumstances on Hastings Street, as you all know, are very different than other encampments that we've dealt with in terms of the imminent safety risk to not only the people in encampment, but the people around the encampment. So this was a case where the encampment was actually jeopardizing other people's lives. And that's not the situation that we've encountered before. And to be honest, has not been reflected in those comments by those other groups or advocates. I can also confirm that the Office of the Ombudsperson for BC has reached out, again, acknowledging those issues, but also seeking information. So we will be engaging with the Ombudsman, providing him with the information that he's looking for to really understand what's going on here and why this is different than other encampments in BC and potentially other places that people are referencing. So I think we're happy to continue to do that, engage with officials to ensure they do have the full understanding of what's going on here, and to acknowledge or confirm our acknowledgement of the rights that they're speaking of, but also the other kind of factors that were at play in this particular case.
Thanks very much, City Manager. I would just encourage that we have our IGR team out there working as much as possible to try and communicate with these groups, but appreciate your response. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Clausen. I don't see anyone else on the docket here, so motion to adjourn. Councillor Kirby-Young, seconding Councillor Dominato. All those in favor say yay. Yay. All those opposed say nay. Great. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.